Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. This is cohort 24, Marketing Sprint 3, session 1. So we will be starting into a new workbook today. And kind of this section of the marketing sprint is really going to focus on audience activation. So I think for this first session, at least, what we're going to do is real quick cover those main metrics that we want you to achieve to build out the amount of audience members that we typically see contribute to success. So we're going to cover that again real quick, and then we'll start to talk about how we can engage even more. So we've talked a lot about emails. We've talked a lot about those kind of initial engagements where we're informing someone or creating content that informs people perhaps about something that you're inviting them in on, this book journey, and that has this kind of level of excitement and level of adrenaline and nervousness. But once that kind of initial phase of engagement is done, we've kind of collected these audience members, we've collected our super fans. How can we continue to consistently engage with them? What can we do to provide one-on-one conversations where we are still providing value and providing content in and around our book journey, our author persona, without it perhaps sounding or seeming very redundant to whomever it is that we're speaking to. So let's jump in the workbook and let's get started. All right. So as I said, today we are starting in a new workbook, Marketing Workbook 3. And once again, this workbook kind of as a whole covers after engagement, when we want to activate our audience and we want to really start to present calls to action that we hope are of a nature that will cause our audience to be motivated to take action. How can we do that? What can we provide? What can we do? What can we say? Where can we look to go for communication in order, and what can we say in order to activate these audiences? Please do make sure to save your copy of this workbook and place it in your author drive. That way you can actively engage with this workbook. You can take notes. Any of the activities or tools that we provide, you then can actually use in the workbook. It is a workbook, so work it. And then before we begin, let's cover a little bit about Sprint 1 and Sprint 2 and why Sprint 3 is kind of, for the workbook purposes, the next natural conversation. In Sprint 3, we're going to focus on establishing more sustainable approaches to audience engagement and growth by building on a few core aspects of author marketing. So as I said, we've already engaged. We've started gathering these super fans, but once again, how do we sustain that? How do we continue that? What do we need to do or say? What platforms should we look to use? What type of content should we look to offer? There are a few familiar core aspects of marketing that we're going to be building on from previous sprints. And that's number 1, building your author persona. Number 2, cultivating community development. And number 3, continuing marketing after the pre-sale ends. I know that's something that a lot of times I talk about, but once again, I think there's this idea of, well, once the book is out there, Mariana, what am I supposed to present content-wise? What can I present to my audience that is going to be of value, but isn't going to be this kind of ad nauseum repetitive type of content or type of communication that I've given them a million times before. In other words, throughout this workbook, the main questions we're going to be grappling with are, number one, how do I present myself in my book? And I know we've had a lot of questions about that, so I'm really excited to start tackling that with you guys. Number two, how do I get my current and desired audience excited about my book journey? Number three, how can I continue to get the word out about my book? So real quick, let's take a look at those metrics that we'd like to always keep at the forefront of your mind. The metrics that I want to talk about real quick are right here in this modern author fan theory. And that's the 75 conversations. So these are 75 super fans. These are people who we've had one-on-one communications with, who we now can consider kind of our frontline audience, right? They're the ones that are our biggest supporters, our most likely advocates, the ones that are most likely to go out and share your story on your behalf. And then 1,000 names for outreach. So these are email lists. These are phone numbers. These are communications that, like I said, you're going to send through email. They may be one-on-one emails where you're kind of conversing more in depth about a particular topic or a particular aspect of your book journey. They may be phone numbers that you are texting, but a thousand different types of contact that are either email or phone number that you can use for outreach in some capacity. We're also looking for 500 online interactions. So those online interactions are with your content that is about your book. And once again, that can be social, but that can be email also, that can be text, that can be website, that it doesn't strictly have to come from one particular digital avenue. These can be direct messages on any of your social platforms. This is basically any type of interaction that you can then use to create a one-on-one conversation. If someone likes one of your posts, you can reach out to that person and now begin that one-on-one conversation. If someone shares your content, that's an opportunity for a one-on-one conversation, sharing your appreciation for that. If someone direct messages you, bam, that's immediately a one-on-one conversation. If someone, responds maybe to an email or a newsletter that you've sent out, that's an opportunity for a one-on-one conversation. Or text. If you do send out, let's say, some kind of text that is going to a particular segment or a particular portion of your audience, and you do get responses that then give you a platform with which you can now carry on one-on-one conversations, those also would fall under this category of 500 online interactions. So let's talk about the marketing and pre-sale process. Now that we've covered those main logistic numbers that we're looking to get you to set as your goals and to try to achieve, the marketing and pre-sale process starts with you working with your marketing specialist. So hopefully at this point, you guys have been talking about strategies. Maybe you've landed on a particular strategy, but you're going to be talking about your particular pre-sale plan. So any kind of promos, packages, maybe questions about your audience that would impact your overall strategy. Your marketing specialist basically is going to deal with anything that is in any capacity going to kind of connect to your overall marketing strategy. But you are learning marketing strategies in sprints. So that's what we do on a weekly basis, right? You come to these sprints, we share strategies, we share tactics that are very, very connected to book marketing, very, very connected to crowdfunding. But the idea is then you take these strategies and begin to apply them with your marketing specialist. As far as content that you're building around your book, this can be social content, this can be email, verbiage, email templates. That's definitely stuff that I'm more than happy to work with you with in our marketing labs, which are every Wednesday, right after this class at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific. So please do keep that in mind, that if there's ever a piece of content that is not actually part of your book, but a piece of content that would in some capacity communicate with your audience outside of the actual text of your book, I'm more than happy to present a platform for you guys to be able to talk to me specifically about that. You're also going to engage with your audience. Invitation marketing helps you identify and activate your fans using tools for posts, emails, and direct messages. I know it says templates, but once again, I really do want to advocate that templates are a great starting off point. But if the idea is that we want to engage in several one-on-one conversations, then I would say that the templates are great to give you concepts to talk about, or at least a framework and structure for an email, maybe length, ideas about the length of the email. But once again, the biggest thing that is going to facilitate one-on-one conversations is personalized communications. And a lot of times that comes from not templated, type of an approach, right? Because every fan is different. Every engagement, every interaction, every time you're going to communicate one-on-one with a part of your audience, that's going to be different every time, right? So we want to make sure that we present the organic nature of these types of conversations. And once again, templates just may not offer that. You're going to run your pre-sale campaign, you prepare it, you may have a video, you work with your book team, you launch your pre-sale campaign, and at that point we need to be activating our audiences, because we need to plan how we can continue with the audience, continue engaging with the audience to have a successful pre-sale and then launch and publish our book. We'll be working through author persona building and community development by targeting 3 main groups. Those 3 groups are going to be your current author community. So, engaging with your pre-sale supporters, other people in your network, definitely sharing a lot of gratitude and a lot of appreciation, and thinking of ways that these people, these audience members, can continue to stay involved in the book journey, despite the fact that pre-sale is currently occurring or your pre-sale is done. Beta reading is a crucial avenue of audience involvement that will strengthen your audience in your book. And we will talk in this session about beta readers, what they are, how to activate them, how to perhaps facilitate that conversation that would invite someone to become a beta reader. We will most definitely talk about that. Press media, so podcasts, speaking engagements, these may be TEDx kind of talks. This may be you appearing on someone's podcast. So securing press and media opportunities creates new platforms for sharing that author persona with your target audience, maybe people that are not already in one-on-one communication with you. Preparing an author one-pager, crafting a speech outline, completing appropriate research, and then engaging in research-supported outreach is going to enable you to make the most of podcast and speaking engagements. And we're going to talk about how to line up a podcast appearance. How do I do that, Mariana? I've listened to podcasts, but how do I begin that conversation with a host of someone involved in a podcast that would allow me to eventually come on as a guest and talk about this topic, or talk about publishing a book, or my industry? We will absolutely talk about that as well. So we'll definitely talk to you about not only how important speaking engagements are, but we're going to talk about how to prepare yourself for speaking engagements, but then also how to begin to engage with key influential, press or media individuals, personalities who can then facilitate you having, achieving these speaking engagements. Ideal readers. In order for you and your book to be discoverable to people who are currently outside of your direct network, so these are going to be new audiences that we're bringing in, you do need to ensure that you're using the right language and categories to align with your ideal readers. Determining your BISAC codes and completing some Amazon category research can be integral to stabilizing long-term interest in sales. There's a caveat I want to put here. when we are talking about marketing, particularly digital marketing, there is a certain level of fluidity. Digital marketing avenues and platforms are changing on a regular basis. And that may be social media, that may be email platforms, maybe something changes and now there's a feature that you were using that's now a premium feature and you no longer have access to it. But we want to ensure that a lot of the decisions that you're going to make they're allowed to be fluid. They're allowed to evolve. They're allowed to shift. And that is because you are human. Your author persona is going to evolve and shift. Your audience is human. Their interest in the book, why they're interested, what portion they're interested in, their interest in you, that is going to evolve and shift also. So there's a lot of parts of marketing, marketing your book that when you decide on that for your strategy or for your author persona or any component of your digital marketing efforts, it's okay if that changes. We're not going to ask you to sign in stone, what your strategy is today, and then that's what you have to do forever. Evolution, growth, shifting of landscapes, that is okay. However, the category of your book, that definitely is something that we want to advocate that you really research and think about and meditate on, because that will impact your ability to talk about your book with other people, because in some capacity, you'll have to mention probably what category of a book it is in order to help your audience either understand maybe a little bit more or help them find the book. And that also, if there's any awards or accolades that you're interested in pursuing, that might change that also. So while there are a lot of aspects of digital marketing and book marketing that we're okay with not being, permanent decisions, there will be things like categorizing your book that we really will want you to put research and time and effort into understanding, because that type of a decision is something that long-term, is probably going to be one of our more permanent decisions. Marketing master Seth Godin, former VP at Yahoo and a member of the Marketing Hall of Fame, says this about marketing. Marketing is the generous act of helping others become who they seek to become. It involves creating honest stories that resonate and spread. Marketers often offer solutions and opportunities for humans to solve their problems and move forward. And when our ideas spread, we change the culture. And that is, when we are marketing, we are not offering products. We're not offering services. We're not offering even a particular lifestyle. We're offering solutions to problems. So when we are marketing, we need to first understand the problem. And a lot of that comes from defining your audience and then determining what it is that they have experienced, are experiencing, or will experience in the future that will present a challenge for them, or that has, or that is currently a challenge for them. And the idea is that we do offer tangible things. We do offer a book to read about, the topic of choice. We do offer consulting services where one-on-one you meet with me and I can coach you through your issues. But more than that, we're offering solutions. All of the tangibles, the book, the coaching packages, all of that, those are tangibles. But more than that, we're offering intangible resolve of some kind of challenge in some capacity. And in order for that process to really be as effective as possible, we first have to validate the problem with our audience. So in some capacity, we have to say, I know you're experiencing this problem, and the reason you should follow me, listen to me, read my book, book a coaching session is because I'm going to solve this problem for you. And this is why you need it solved. And this is how you're going to feel after I've solved the problem for you. So we want to talk about how that challenge feels. Does it feel upsetting, anxiety inducing? Does it feel hopeless? Does it feel frustrating? And then we also want to talk about those intangible feelings that once we've solved this problem for you, audience, you're going to feel resolve. You're going to feel lighter. You're going to feel better, happier, improved. Because really, problems, even if we've defined the main problem that our book is going to present a solution for, that problem can be experienced. There's many facets probably to the way that problem can be experienced or the way that challenge can be experienced. But the one thing that is going to be consistent is that that challenge is going to conjure up emotions and feelings in whomever is experiencing it. And that's really where we want to connect on that universality of human emotion and of the fact that we all experience challenges. Yes, our challenges differ across the board. Maybe even they differ from us, for us as individuals from day to day. But we all want to shift from a space where we're feeling uncomfortable about something because we feel we have a challenge or a problem, and we want to shift into a space where we feel resolved and where we feel informed and where we feel like we've taken advantage of a solution or found a solution that now betters our life in some capacity or betters our journey. So that's really something that we do want to talk about with our audiences, is the tangibles of what our book is going to offer, tangibles of what our packages are going to offer, tangibles of what our author persona is going to offer, but also the intangibles, the feelings. What is it going to feel like? What is that challenge that they're experiencing? How does that make them feel? And how are they going to feel once it's solved? And now that's when you present the call to action. I'm the one to solve it for you. XYZ call to action. Do this. Buy a book in pre-sale, book a coaching session. And that's where those call to actions really feel most relevant and purposeful, is because we are presenting a solution and that's what they're buying. Essentially, if they're buying the book, they're buying a solution to something, right? And that's how we want to frame it in our mind, at least. And we definitely want to put thought into that problem and how that problem feels to be experienced, and then how we're going to solve that, why we're going to solve that, why that problem needs solved to begin with, and then how, in what capacity, in what ways, and how will it feel once we've bettered the lives of people who have taken advantage of our solution. The next component is doing a super fan check-in. So let's say we've established at least some, if not all, of our super fans. We've engaged them. They've hit the metric of, like, they've given you time, they've given you treasure, they've given you, they've given you something that helps you qualify them as a super fan. What do we do next, right? So the first question that you would need to ask yourself is, do you have at least 75 of these people? And if not, what can you do strategy-wise to add more? Second thing we want to ask is, have you engaged your superfans lately? Gratitude, special perks, they all go a long way. And your superfans are what I would consider like your VIP fans, right? So they're going to want, kind of to get behind that velvet rope and take advantage of being in your inner circle of fandom. So we want to make sure that we're engaging with those individuals consistently, even after we've kind of defined them and perhaps presented a call to action. You still want to be providing them with value that is going to continue that engagement and activate that audience and get them to continue their support. And definitely, you can never say thank you enough to anyone who is supporting you in any capacity. A lot of times, I think, whenever I've done any kind of fundraising, crowdfunding, I always try to build out a very small content library before I actually endeavor in like any of the social media or email or website activities. And it's literally just, an image, maybe sized for a few different platforms or sized as an email header. And And then just some brief copy that expresses gratitude for the support and what that support means to you. Once again, human emotion. How does it make you feel to be overcoming, this challenge of writing a book and getting the book through presale and publishing the book and owning your ideas in a way that is going to better your life in some capacity. And I always kind of keep that just saved on my computer somewhere so that when someone does support in some capacity by purchasing a presale, package, or even by sharing my content via social, I have that to go to and I can just very quickly share gratitude and share appreciation for the multitude of ways that people are supporting, and that support really is what's going to facilitate your ability to achieve your goal. Third question is, have you given your superfans actionable steps to help you? This is where a lot of calls to action fail. Is you've created urgency, you've created a solution, you've talked about the solution, and then it kind of falls short in giving directions on how to follow through with the call to action. Buy now, start today, sign up. We really want to be as specific as possible when we are saying, I need your support, here's how you can support me. We want to give very clear action-oriented steps on how and what needs to be done to can be considered a supporter of yours. So you can link to your presale campaign, have them share that far and wide. You can have instructions and templates for the 11 Ask outreach that we talked about last session where, hey, do you happen to know 11 people or have the contact information of 11 people, or can you reach out to 11 people on my behalf who would also be interested in some capacity in a facet of my journey? It may be writing a book. It may be because they're industry related. It may be because we have similar professional goals. It may be the topic of the book. Can you somehow help me connect with them so that I can bring them in and make them a part of our community as well? And then appreciation. Those are always very, very quick ways to make sure that we are continuously engaging with our super fans. The next thing we're going to go into is beta readers. Beta is the second letter of the Greek alphabet, and it serves us here in this fashion. A beta reader is basically a second reader. Beta readers are members of your audience who are going to volunteer to provide you early insight into maybe one or two max parts of your book. And these can be chapters, these can be introductions, but let's break down how this happens. The goal of beta readers is to involve your audience in key book decisions. At Manuscripts, we use beta reading as an audience activation tool, but not at all for revisions. You are going to ask your beta readers to increase their interest in your book and in you. And although you may get some great feedback from your beta readers, you will have to put that aside for now until you move into the revision portion of the journey. So we refer to someone who volunteers to read the entire manuscript and give you specific revisions about, let's say, structure or grammar or punctuation or anyone who's basically going to be grabbing a pen and circling something in your book. We call those heavy pen readers. Those are your editors. Those are the people who are actually kind of helping you make edits to the book. That is not what beta readers are. So we're not really going to focus on heavy pen readers. You have editors for various portions of the overall book journey. So we have that covered. We've got your heavy pen readers covered. We're going to talk about beta readers. That's really where we want to focus. Beta readers, just a real quick rundown of how beta and heavy pen readers differ. Both of them are voluntary, yes. Beta readers are only going to get like a chapter, max of your book, where heavy pen readers get the entire manuscript and typically are making changes start to finish. Beta readers are an audience activation tool, whereas heavy pen readers are revision tools. They're people from whom you're getting very specific feedback about verbiage, about punctuation, about structure, about, you know, sentence structures, syntax. We got that covered, right? Our beta readers are people who we are activating and once again, kind of opening the velvet rope and letting them in a manner that is kind of, like I said, the VIP treatment. They're getting to see portions of the book before anyone. And you're also kind of going to ask them, like, you know, what did you think? You know, is there anything that felt engaging? Is there anything that felt disengaging? And then we do have an activity for you to activate your beta readers. There is a spreadsheet here to record and track your beta readers and your heavy pen readers, just so that you can keep track of them. And then these are pretty much the steps that you would take to engage with with an audience member and kind of ask them and shift them to being a beta reader. So first, you're going to choose a piece of your manuscript to share. Most of the time, we see this happen to very early portions of your book. So it may be the introduction or the author's note, or it could be the very, very first chapter of your book. You and your developmental editor are going to revise your introduction and your author's note together, and then your DE completes a copy of the edit during the manuscript building phase. With the first chapter, you and your developmental editor revised the piece together as well, and the DE completed a copy edit during the manuscript building phase. But usually this is done to the first chapter of your book. If you choose a different chapter for your developmental editor to look at, that's okay too. We do want to convert it to a shareable format. And what I mean by that is we don't want to obviously hand them a Word doc with the entire book on it. We also don't want to hand them a document that is easy to edit, because we really want to set the parameters that this is not, we're not asking for revisions. We are sincerely just asking you, offering you an opportunity to engage in a very, you know, kind of intimate way with your writing and with what you're creating. So what we really want to do a lot of times is to open our revised and copy edited version of the particular section that you want to share, select download, but choose a PDF. This one says or Microsoft Word document. I think a PDF is a much better way to go, because PDFs are not editable documents. These are documents where, unless someone converted it first, they would not be able to go in and make edits to the actual writing, the actual words. So I think a PDF is a really good way to go, because I think it just sets up the precedent from the get-go that I really just want you to read this to enjoy it. I don't want you to read it to give me specific feedback about, you know, the grammar or words in particular, or the story structure. I really just want you to be able to sit back and enjoy this. And then decide whether you will attach the file to Outreach or use a shareable link. You know, maybe you put it in a Google Doc and you just want to share the link with those individuals who you're going to invite to beta read. Once again, you can edit, and when you are sharing a Google Doc, you can kind of choose in what capacity you want to share it. Do you want anyone with this link to be able to find this particular document? Do you want them to have editing permission? So there's still in some capacity an ability for you to limit their ability to actually go in and like change words and stuff. And I think once again, we want to be very clear in the way we articulate it, but also be very clear in the way that we present our work, that this is not, we're not asking for revisions. Step 3 is identify the beta reader. We suggest that you identify 10 to 20 potential beta readers, so you can open the opportunity up to more fans if you'd like. But here are some of the following questions when choosing who to engage. And this can be done with individuals, or this can be done with groups. So the first question is, who has expressed interest in reading a sample of your book or offering their insight or advice? Second question, whose opinion would I truly value? Who would I sincerely feel like if they provided me with some feedback in some capacity, like I would take that serious and I would really listen, because that's obviously the people we want to target to do this with. Question 3 is, who would be willing to read an early excerpt? And number 4 is, who would feel very special by being given this VIP access to an early excerpt of your book? A side note, beta readers may be part of your author community, but don't necessarily have to be. So there's no like line in the sand that only these people can, engage with you as beta readers. I think once again, that's up to your sentiment. That's up to, your feelings on things. And that who do you feel would benefit from reading, but also who do you feel you would benefit from having read your work. We then have a tool here, outreach templates. The spreadsheet, once again, is in here to track our beta and our heavy pen readers. And then here's a real quick template for kind of introducing the idea of a beta reader and asking someone, if they would like that kind of access, or if they would be able to offer us that kind of access. And then here is an email if we're going to ask them for like a very specific, if we're giving them a portion, a chapter of our book, here's some verbiage on that as well. Things that are working, ways that you can indicate to me things that are really working about this book, versus areas where, perhaps you feel there is some improvement needed. And once again, we're looking, when we're looking for this kind of information, we're asking about the clarity, the logic, the impact, and the sentiment feelings that people are taking away from this chapter. Now, the sentiment doesn't have to be good, because that may not be the goal of the chapter. So what type of feelings you want to conjure up with this particular chapter of your book that you're going to share. So, just make sure that's what this is an opportunity to do, to open the velvet rope, let them in, but then to ask them, what do you think, overall? And, once again, don't worry about spelling, grammar, punctuation. We've got that covered. I really just want to know what you think of the content. What resonates, what doesn't, and how can I make this the best book it can be? Plain and simple. And once again, this talks about giving editable documents for people to respond directly on. A Google Doc is great because even someone who does not have editing permission can still leave notes about whatever you're sharing with them. So a Google Doc's a really great way to go. PDF is also, once again, I think a really good format for this, but they most likely would need to either write down their notes or email those notes back to you, because depending on the platform that they're using to view the PDF, they may or may not be able to leave notes on the document. And that is all of session 1 in our third workbook. Any questions that you have, any feedback, any concerns, any issues that you run into when you're kind of thinking about this process, or when you actually put the process into action and maybe something comes up or you have a question, by all means, feel free to reach out. Once again, I also hold marketing labs every Wednesday, and that is from 1 p.m. EST to 2 p.m. EST. And that really is a time for us to be able to talk about your content that you are sharing around your book, not necessarily what's in the book. You've got your editors and your heavy pen readers for that, but really about the content that you are sharing with your audience that is about the book, about you as an author, about your journey. Those are all things that I'm thrilled to be able to offer you support with, so that maybe it feels as though you're part of a team when you're doing this, and it doesn't feel like you're by yourself out there trying to achieve this. And other than that, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video for this week. And I really hope you guys have a great week, and happy writing, happy editing, happy engaging. See you next week.